about a month and a half back, we had to sideline our fleet based on the carbon monoxide issues we were experiencing in our fleet. We expect to get the first 10 vehicles back next Monday. These vehicles have been sent out to a Ford dealership, and they have conducted the necessary repairs on these vehicles, and we're being told that they are actually back to standard and that they're safe to use again. So we will get 10 of these vehicles back next week. We will spend about a week with our city's fleet department running these vehicles through our own set of tests, using our own instrumentation, and again wanting to validate the results that Ford has given us to this point, telling us that these vehicles are in fact safe to use. And if we do get the same results that they have, then at that point we will begin working through repairing the remaining fleet of almost 400 vehicles. We expect that we can get about 20 of these vehicles repaired per week, so it will take us a little while to get the entire fleet back, but we are at a good point if we can start getting these vehicles back into service. So again, we'll get the first 10 back next week and run them through our own set of tests, and then start returning the rest of the fleet into service once that's been done. I know there have been questions about the impacts that this has had to our operations, and we stated from the beginning that we knew that there might be impacts to our response times, as well as some of the other metrics that we track. And the latest numbers that we have show that our P0, which is our highest priority calls, these are the calls where life is in danger or an immediate response is likely to save a life or to result in an arrest. The average for the first 6 months of this year for our response times was 6 minutes and 47 seconds to a P0 call. So the 6-month average for January through June of 2017 was 6 minutes and 47 seconds. The average last week for the 1 week period was 7 minutes and 14 seconds. So what we were seeing was an increase of about 30 seconds in response time to our most urgent calls. And that's about what it was week by week. We were tracking these metrics week by week, other than 1 week where it spiked to a slightly over 8 minutes. The average really was about 30 seconds per week on those calls. P1 is the next level of priority call. An average response time to a P1 call for the first 6 months of the year was 8 minutes and 39 seconds. Last week that was 9 minutes and 13 seconds. So again, it's about a 30-second increase. We also look at the number of calls that take place during a given week, and to put it in perspective, in our P0s, the response time was about 30 seconds higher last week, but we also had 40 additional P0 calls than we had in the average week the 6 months at the beginning of the year. So we did see some increases as expected, and that's why we're glad that we're in the position now where we're going to be getting the remainder of the fleet back. Questions about arrests have come up also. Did this impact our arrests? Arrest numbers, they vary widely depending upon the time of the year, depending upon whether we have any special events taking place that week, whether it be a music festival, a football game, or things like that. So the numbers vary. I know in the week prior to putting the fleet to the side, we had, I believe, 696 arrests, and the following week we had 578. However, we only had 643 a couple weeks before that. So those numbers vary widely. We're still putting together the data for crime for the month of August. That takes us a couple of weeks into the following month to assess and get all the reports in. So I can't report to you today yet what crime looked like in August and whether there may have been an impact based on our officers being doubled up. But we do regularly say that one of the greatest deterrents to crime is a visible police presence, and by having to double up our officers in vehicles, we essentially cut our visibility in half because we're having to use just our patrol cars along with some of our non-marked vehicles. So again, I actually want to thank Ford for taking the aggressive steps that they took, sending their engineers here to Austin and working with the local dealerships and coming up with a solution as quickly as they did, and then hopefully, again, this will be the permanent solution and we will be able to push our entire fleet through these repairs and get these vehicles back in service.